the exact same.
Yeah, that's all good.
Perfect.
All right, it is October 10th, 2022, 6:53. We're starting this meeting just a little bit late because we had to get a quorum. I have present, who do I have present? President, God, I'm still on a phone.
You want me to do
Councilperson, go ahead.
Council President Tressa, Council President Wolf,
Thank you.
Mayor Hughes, Southern, I don't even know what my name is, I know better. Maybe I've got the same problem. We have maintenance, Brian Sutton, Barb Sutton, and then we also have Brady from planning and zoning in case we have any additional questions for him.
Perfect. All right. And this is the community committee meeting. And then of course myself. Your papers are in the car? Yeah. Because you didn't email me anything, so. All right. I think we're starting with the maintenance building, right? Isn't that what we talked
Brian
about?
can get out of here.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I would say. And I
Yep,
think
we're good.
as far as that goes, you just kind of.
Are we talking about location? Are
I
we?
would say anything and everything. This is something that location, size, thoughts of expandable needs, and I would say this isn't like the topic for it, and just, you know, starting the conversation tonight.
Okay.
I have gotten a couple different prices and estimates and things like that, like you
Right.
guys had seen, just because I was, I'll say it for the record, I was at a graduation party, it was a barn, it was a company that did it from out there, there's multiple options, many options. Got pricing from, what he had spent, so then I reached out to the contractor, obviously it would go out to bid, it would still do all of that stuff, but this was just to get us at a starting point of a great size, of what I thought was a great size. Our maintenance team is currently working out of, about 150 square foot shed. But, you know, we've now got 2 large lawnmowers, those are being parked in the garage that the EMS used to be in which we now don't have, so they are gonna be parked in the pods. But over the last year or 2, he has been able to obtain, quite a bit more equipment. So, I mean, even just
Right.
shovels and, you know, we have some salt for, you know, the snow plow, or not the snow plow, but the, so we do have stuff that's stored in that garage now, he has kind of taken over that garage, now he's gonna be working out of that, so obviously 150 square foot is not gonna work.
Right.
We had started looking at around 2,600 square foot, something that is, you know, the large ceilings, high, garage doors, 14 feet garage doors, at least 1 or 2.
14
Yeah, so, you know, we had looked at things that would potentially give us options down the road. You know, obviously if we're in a couple hundred square feet now, we're, you know,
Yep.
10 timesing it plus. But the question is what's gonna happen with maintenance as we move forward with Blendon Township, with salting and plowing, and everybody has my opinion on that. I'll let Brian chime, or, you know, I'll let him chime in as far as locations and sizes, but, you know, I don't know that the village is ever going to salt and plow. You know, once you start getting equipment and the larger equipment and having the staff to operate it, and if you have a snowstorm 3 days in a row, like, what do you do? Like, to me, it's just, we are always gonna be too small to do something like that. I mean, it's great in theory until it happens, like, you have to have a team, that's able to drive and do all of that. And I'll say this, I actually know a little bit about it because my dad's done it for 25 years. He's worked for a landscape company that did salting and plowing, and he did it, the wear and tear on the trucks, you know, all of that kind of stuff goes into it, and the lack of sleep. I mean, with this being a municipality, you can't just have our maintenance person working 14 straight hours.
Right.
You need 2 or 3, and then you have 2 ice storms coming back to back. What do you do at that point? So I worry that our village is just too small for that, but I know that it has been a big topic of what do we need? So I'm gonna let him kind of go into like what he sees for the future, or what he lacks and what he needs and what he sees, so you guys can see that. But I would say the biggest determining factor is we don't wanna undersize ourselves, I'm fully aware of that, but I also think residents will not necessarily be thrilled if we are, you know, once again, just trying to keep up with the Joneses or doing something way above our means. or needs.
Is there
So-
any consideration for there being schools in the neighborhood that it gets us priority on getting some roads plowed? Do you know?
And actually, we had talked about that a tiny bit earlier today, because I was wondering, with this not technically being in Westerville, I mean, we have the one maintenance person, but how does that work with, I don't know the answer,
Okay.
like the salting that they do there, and I would assume, I know that they also cancel school probably more than, not more than anything, but with ice. I don't know who's responsible for that, I'm obviously sure that they're not gonna send somebody from up there, I would assume it's the responsibility of maybe the one or two maintenance people here. But Blendon, I mean, I wouldn't think that Blendon Township is going to be, at this point, Blendon Township is still doing it. I will also tell you that on Friday, I have a meeting with Blendon Township, I believe it's Friday, that we're gonna be discussing multiple things. I'm not going there just to talk about that, but that will be part of the conversation that we're gonna have. But even if Blendon Township, and we don't, not contract right now, but they are doing that, I believe that that is a multi-year process. Because my understanding is for us to be removed from Blendon Township, there has to be a vote, like an actual November ballot vote for that to happen. So that is gonna be, that's not something that's gonna happen overnight, so they will be responsible for plowing, it's just a matter of what happens with the new development. And I did misspeak on that because, again, I glanced at some of that stuff, that was per plow or per push for that estimate that they sent that day. Yeah, so just as an FYI, like, I just wanna clear that up.
That wasn't the season, that was.
No, exactly, that was a per push type thing. And again, Jesse will be working on that, Jesse's gonna have us some background of what we can do with them to negotiate or to do whatever. Can they just come in and do that? I don't have the answers for that, but we will be working on that, so I don't wanna go too far into that. But again, I think this is more about what are our needs? Do we do this based on our needs and expected needs, assuming that we are or aren't going to do something like that, I don't know. I mean, I think if any of us have a crystal ball, I would love for you to pull it out right now.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
Just saying.
Brian, what are your
Is yours in the shop? Or mine's up?
Maintenance,
thoughts, Brian?
My thoughts,
I meant that Brian, but
Oh, that way.
sorry. For what do you need?
Brian, maintenance?
Yes, sorry, Brian maintenance.
I had thought about the 2,000 square foot, and I think I eliminated that because of the fact, once you get multiple vehicles parked in the garage, let's say during the winter time, your 2,000 square feet really goes out the door. So I would think the maximum square foot should be 5,000 square foot. Unless we can go up with a elevator / hoist to bring stuff up into the attic for storage, then we gain our square footage back at 2,000.
Mayor
Go.
Southard,
You're good.
what was the square footage of the one that you had said?
25. It was right around 25. That included the office, that included, what did it, just the office bathroom.
There were some,
some
Yeah.
stuff.
he'll have his own office and stuff too as well.
did it have an office in it? I thought it was just a shell,
We
but
had
maybe
emailed-
not.
Yes, it is pretty much a shell, but it would
Okay.
it would have the shell for the office,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And the other part is, this is just one particular company.
Yeah, no, I get
There are
it.
many people that do this, that we would go, because again, you're talking, what was it, like 60 or 70 or 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. I mean, it's gonna be double that, once you start adding electric, once you start adding, all that kind of stuff, realistically. I know that there's been numbers tossed around about 400,000. I don't see that as being necessary or, anything like that. And again, I think when you start talking about spending that kind of money, that to me is just crazy talk. I'm not saying it's not going to be that, I don't know, I'm obviously not a builder. But I feel like at some point we have to start worrying about needs and wants, like he's saying, once you start having. I would love to see the village get a actual plow salt truck, but not be responsible for it. Just being able to do like some of those hills that are over on like the intersections, and being able to prioritize a couple areas. I mean, I think we need that. I think, I'm gonna say this, I would love to see the village get rid of that piece of crap truck that we have that, it's not a piece of crap. it doesn't suit our needs.
Right.
That's the easiest way to say it. It does not do the things, you can't salt, you can't do anything out of that truck.
Right.
I would love to see the village upgrade that truck and be able to do intersections and be able to do the driveways and the entryways in a lot of the different areas. So, and like he's saying, you would have to have somewhere to park that truck. It would be nice if our Ranger wasn't sitting out, our UTV wasn't sitting
Yeah.
out in the weather. I mean, we spent $16,000 on it and can't even put it inside anywhere.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, I've got a lot of maintenance stuff that's scattered
in everywhere.
within village. I mean, I've got stuff that's at the pool, I got
Right.
stuff that's at 2829, I got stuff that's in
Right.
2829 shed,
Yeah.
you know?
So, go ahead.
I think that, I'll say, I don't know that anybody is saying this isn't a need.
Right.
The full scope of the need, it's the kind of thing that it can be as big
Right.
as,
And, yeah,
it's a goldfish, right? As you keep feeding the ocean, it'll just keep getting bigger,
right,
right? I think that maybe a smarter way about it is to locate the where,
okay,
right? Because the where, because we are limited on wheres.
with 2 to 3 places.
Right, so we should make a decision on the where, and then that will strongly inform the physical plant we can fit on that
I
where,
agree with you.
right? And then we can, assess, whether that will meet our needs both yesterday, today, and in the reasonable future.
Well, and I think, going along with that, you had talked about the storage like above it and all that kind of stuff, and I think, again, you can have a 2,500 square foot house, or you can have a 2,500 square foot house. I mean, you do two 2,500, they're going to be totally different if you, depending on how you design it. And you could design this particular maintenance garage, in a way that suits our needs. I mean, if you just go in and throw something up, but I think that there's ways to get, whether it's 2,500, whether it's 5,000, or whether it's 1,500, I think if you do it right, you can get a lot of the storage space out of it, you can do a lot of this,
A loft in a barn.
Exactly.
You just
Yeah.
increase your square footage by half, right?
Yes.
It doesn't, and it's not that much trickier to build.
and he was asking about that, we haven't gotten the details from, because again,
Yep.
you also wanna tread lightly with some of these companies, when I reach out to them 15 times and, we're really just kinda going in circles, you don't wanna waste a contractor's time, you really
Right.
wanna get to the point that, yes, we're serious and yes, we have a location and all that before you really, this is one of those projects that I'm really interested in getting Mike Flickinger involved, when we get to the bidding, that goes into the bidding thing, because we think that we might have some good options with that, with this bidding, being able to get some additional bids, for something like this, so
So what are the,
So, yeah,
I'm gonna give you the 3
What's the
locations.
where?
what are the three
Yeah.
locations that you have in mind?
Because there was the 3, and I have my own opinions about it, but one of the locations was, the pipe, I'm gonna call it, I don't wanna call it a pipe dream, that's not fair. The location that was brought to the attention where the Inns Keep potentially has that extra land and all of that. That to me just seems like something that's gonna be far-fetched a long time from now, and I would like to see a maintenance shed garage on the books for a 2023 project. I mean, as of right now, like he says, this is all scattered everywhere, this needs to be a priority. Like, I think that there's things that we want to see a priority, in my opinion, this needs to be a priority. Again, we have UTV, everything out.
Have you had
Yep.
any discussion with that?
So there has been a small, yes, there has been, and again, they're not really interested in selling, there's a potential of maybe renting the land for a little bit and this and that.
We're not
So
gonna
that
vote
was,
on it.
that's, okay,
No.
so that, I just wanted to
Right.
bring
Yeah.
it, it is not a priority for me. So what are the 2 real options?
yeah,
The 2 real options are at the pool, which we're all fully aware of.
Mm-hmm.
The second option is over, Maplewood and the Maplewood corner. Did you grab a picture today? Okay, so I'm gonna have him do that. And what we mean by that is,
it's the,
It's only the drive that goes through the back,
Correct.
right? Oh, yeah.
so you kind of go up that a little bit, it was
That's
really
good.
only, we had actually gone over there, I actually went over there with
That's a
Leah
really
and
good
Chief,
idea.
and we've been there. And it's going to interfere with a couple residents, there will be residents that are upset about it, it doesn't matter where you put it, if you put it at the pool, you're gonna have some residents that are,
I think,
Um,
Email it to him.
but I think it's,
Somebody,
Can you
it's
type-
important
Oh, that
to,
might even be is that a Mac? No.
no.
You just email the pictures to him.
Oh, boy.
I think it's important to take all of those things into consideration, obviously, so. It does appear that it might have an impact on few residents. The one that is right next door, obviously, is gonna be one of the biggest ones.
That's
There's
the one I
not
thought
many.
about.
Then you do have the ones that are gonna have to look at it, that are currently looking at basketball court and or,
CAM.
some of those things in that particular area, they're now going to have a metal building. Or maybe not, I mean, maybe we don't do
So
it.
there's also plant trees there,
Yes,
so
there
if
is.
it were done behind such that it wouldn't have to be
Correct,
ugly, right? It can be done in a manner that is,
Right.
and there's neighbors at the pool too, right?
correct, that was my point, you're gonna impact residents no matter what.
Right.
Yes, I totally agree with that. The part that was appealing over on, 161 is not an option, is it would have been obviously the fewest amount of residents, but in my opinion, it was the furthest away from everything. He can jump on a lawnmower and start into the new section, or go to Maplewood, or it is really, the pool would have the same type of thing, he could get to the
Do it
community
again.
building quickly. But I think if we really have plans to do things at the pool, whether it be a year from now or 5 years from now, putting a maintenance shed there is not going to be as appealing if you want lazy rivers or, and I'm dreaming big here, I'm not saying we ever will, but putting something, putting.
I got that dream too.
Yeah.
So any renovation.
Like, don't shoot that down.
Because by the pool, any renovation to the
A
pool.
lazy river and a margarita.
complex, let's call it,
Yes,
would then be, it's another albatross on the neck of that, right?
Correct.
You can't expand that way because now there's a building there,
Right.
right? And you can't expand that because there's
Correct.
neighbors,
Right,
there's physically, you actually. Isn't that space, hold on, this just came to mind, isn't that space next to the pool that's open, isn't that an AP
I believe so, yes.
easement? So we can't build on it.
I don't even, you would only be able to put it in several areas over there, you're correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we are going to be limited to the areas that we could do this, so when we had looked at it, yeah, you can see like some of the different shots from there.
this is by the basketball court.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So it's back in there, it would actually be, again, we could add some trees around it just to give a little bit more shelter, I mean, there's lots of trees there now. Probably gonna come down, don't,
Right here, right?
Right,
yes,
Okay.
but it's something that, again, if we lose a tree or two to function, have the village functioning in a,
well, that's
Yeah, I mean,
a whole orchard.
this, huh? What?
So it's going next to the basketball court, right out in the front?
No, no.
no,
Well,
it would be behind it, no,
Behind it.
So
no.
if
you're-
See if you can see it, see if you can do an aerial.
This is,
Right there.
this
Can you
is
do an
where it would
aerial?
go.
Yeah, if you click on layers.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize it.
Yeah, it is,
Which,
because when you go back in there, there we go. So there's, okay.
This is the.
That's the court, so it should be down further,
This
right?
is the court,
Correct.
and it's behind it.
No, keep
No,
going
the other
south.
way
Keep going
down.
south.
It's down
Yeah.
here?
Where the
Yes,
Google
it's
is right now, like right around
Right
that,
in-
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
I was thinking, okay.
So,
Gotcha.
you would have these houses here,
Okay.
but it is pretty far,
It's-
like,
yeah.
it was a pretty decent, now,
Maybe if you place it right behind some of that, those
but this is
plants.
gonna be, go back to that tree, or the driveway, so that's the driveway, so our thought is it would go right in this particular area, something right around there.
Right.
That one's gonna be the worst one impacted by it, they're definitely gonna be upset, cause I was told they do use this as,
But they were used to other village personnel using that as a driveway, correct? Numerous
No,
times.
it was not actually village.
But it
So,
was used by village.
not a whole lot, because we don't have any reason to go back there.
yeah, there's
I mean,
some
not
place
since
back
they
there, there's
closed the
that
hoop plant.
fence, yeah,
Right,
that's
so,
what it
so at
was.
one point in time, in the way backs, Minerva Park had a wastewater treatment facility, and that was part of the access to get back there. That
Oh,
now,
okay.
the only use that I'm aware of on the regular is at the end of it, there's a locked gate.
There is.
And that locked gate is access to the AEP easement that goes between the houses on Maplewood and
That's
Wallcrest.
The
the,
other neighborhood,
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's how
okay.
they get back there.
Well, we used to take the dogs to walk all the way along that edge.
Yeah, that's a fence there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, but we're talking about
sorry,
right
because
here.
I was under the impression.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
That
I like
this
that.
area was
And-
AP.
I kinda
but
like
I'm
that.
not seeing
Yeah.
it here on the auditors.
that or the,
so what size building can we get on that lot?
Yeah,
No,
that's
no.
not a pretty sight.
I think this here is really about the best place by the pool, but I don't. you know, then if you're doing it by the pool, then we've gotta add to the cost paving that parking lot, cause you're not gonna wanna deal with
Sending
it.
Eric another email.
You
Another
put it on
survey.
gravel. Or I think it's,
Paving was somewhere down the road.
Paving would be an
Yeah.
awesome thing down the road eventually, I would love to see that entire middle island, I know you're gonna lose a tree or two, or something along, I mean, I am fully aware of at least three accidents that happened in that parking lot, one of mine, one of John's, and
Yeah.
one Gina's.
Yep.
And those were just the days I was there,
Yeah.
so
no, it's,
we have to do something with
it's
that.
problematic.
Yes,
So we can't, so this location's not good?
No, this one is,
The Maplewood Corner,
I
the
think
only thing I have a hesitation about the Maplewood Corner is that all the utilities you would have to add there, cost-wise. Plumbing,
so,
they would probably
here's
attach,
the thing, right, I mean,
It's all run through this
this,
street.
this house has all of it, right? So,
you
okay.
would just come from the street.
yeah, so the water line, we know for sure, if you scroll down this way, well, we know a few things for sure, right? Across the street here and right here, they've got all the utilities, so it can't be more than the adjacent lot away.
Right.
Right.
Right, so, and then the sewer maps, as I recall,
From that.
I believe there's a sewer line that runs here, right? Cause that's the old main line that runs, that across what used to be the golf course. So I don't think the utilities
No?
are that hard there.
And I would think that even over at the pool, I would think that maybe a lot of the services that are up there might be just as expensive.
Yeah,
And some of
I know
that
the
is,
grading's gonna be a lot here because of how sunk down that is.
Chairman, that house
Mhm.
right next to it is a 1,500 square foot house, if that
This
helps to
is-
visualize how big a.
Gotcha, that's good, okay.
Oh, that is good to know.
So we have plenty of room to put what we need there.
right,
I mean, again, I think, I personally like this the best, I think it's more central to the neighborhood and to the areas that need the maintenance the most.
right.
right.
I think
Because-
going into the news section is right there, I think the basketball court is right there. I mean, here's the thing, it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to be far from something, you're gonna be
Right.
far from Cleveland Avenue if you go right here.
Right,
I mean, obviously you can't, you're gonna be far from something, but I
We're not
agree.
any further from Cleveland
No.
Avenue from the other proposed location, right?
Correct,
yeah,
So
Absolutely.
if it's a one or the other,
Mhm.
I think this one generally has better access to the village.
Mhm.
And generally has better access to some of the places that, maintenance deals with on the regular, right? Cause there's, you know, a third of the trash cans you're emptying twice a week are right there,
right,
right? You know, maybe 10% of the grass you're mowing is right there, right? It's,
yeah,
I think that's the spot to look at, and then
Yeah.
the next step would be to, you know, understand how big that spot is and what then it would take to put a thing there.
right.
okay,
No, yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest thing we wanted to talk about, you know, what can we put there? Even getting one of those contractors to come out and looking at the site and telling us if they think it would work, if they didn't think it would
Yeah.
work in that particular area. But again, without talking to you guys, I hate to bring contractors from Morrow County,
right,
all the way up. It's still gonna, like I said, it's still gonna have to go out to bid.
Right.
This is not somebody that I know personally, this is somebody that built something for my cousin. So it would go out to bid just like a
Well,
normal process.
and you sent out pictures, I think most of
I
us
did.
have seen the website.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful building,
Yes.
if they
And
can
he
do
said
something
he
just
would
like
bid on
that.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
he said this is something that they
Yeah.
use, they have actually done a couple, in Franklin County and for other municipalities that they have done similar things for them, that they would definitely be interested in bidding on it.
Would you involve, the people's houses that'll be affected in a way a little bit maybe?
What do you mean? Like,
As
just
far
letting
as
them
the
know?
aesthetic.
Have a meeting
Yeah,
and, you know, just to let these.
I don't think there's ever anything wrong with trying to get residents involved. At the end of the day, we have and this is public record, so I'm just gonna say it, if you wanna know like what I'm gonna say. At the end of the day, we only have X amount of options.
Right.
We have to have something. This isn't one of those wants, this is a need.
right,
It has to go somewhere, and
Sure.
at some point, you just have to say, while I understand that this isn't ideal, we would love to work with you, we are gonna try to keep it as far away from your property line as we possibly can, blah, 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 but at the end of the day, this
Right.
is, whether it's at the pool, it's going to affect somebody, whether it's here, it's going
Right.
to affect someone.
Well, and
So
we
I
can,
never think it's, you never want to be difficult with people, but you also have to
You have to,
realize that there's 2,000 other residents that need these services.
Right.
you have to do what you have to do at the end of the day.
yeah,
Yes,
It's a meeting to let them feel good about they've been
Right.
heard,
right,
they've been
they
informed
should.
in advance.
yeah.
Yeah, now,
You shouldn't have trucks digging up your yard before they know that there's something going on there.
Well,
I would agree with that.
and I think we're looking at something aesthetically pleasing, it's not like just
Right.
like a tool shed being put up.
Right.
And we're only talking usually business hours, it's not a neighbor who's gonna have parties late into the night.
unless we're running plowing out.
Sure,
Right, and then, that's the only time that if we were running street plowing out of it, street plowing might happen at 2 in the morning, it might
Sure.
happen at, but,
And you wake up and know you're.
you know,
Your
when you
driveway's
wake up
gonna
and
be
you know
street
that
sweeping.
your
Right.
pit is gonna be the first to be plowed,
True.
every time,
true,
which,
Well, noise wise, they don't have to worry about really anything other than maybe a saw and
Right.
a more.
and the.
But even at that, you
that's
wouldn't
gonna
be
business
doing-
hours. You're not gonna be
yeah.
doing that at 2 in the
Right.
morning.
It's gonna be business hours,
Yeah.
we're not gonna be doing anything
And
that,
it's not like starting, if, again, we were to do the plowing, it's not like that plow truck is gonna be louder than any other plow truck.
That
that's
comes
gonna be
through the
coming and
neighborhood,
plowing
right.
that street too.
Right.
So I think the earliest I've started anything was probably 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's early.
Hmm.
That's early.
Just make them up.
It was heavy, had to get it out of there.
Fair enough.
and it can be pushed back far enough,
well, and I think that's the other part, I mean, we could go out there, put the pins out, I'm not saying we would, but, you know, you may have the engineer that says it, I mean, I'm just being devil's advocate here, you may have the engineer that says, no, it has to go here because of an easement, or because of this, or because of that, so,
Yeah, the other thing is, as you push it back, then you start
getting into other residents.
getting into the MI.
Don't want-
yeah, but if I remember right, isn't there a
Slang.
pretty big mound of dirt right
Yes.
here?
Yeah.
So, they're kind of,
That's
they're
been a
kind
topic
of,
for how long?
huh?
So-
It's definitely behind,
mound is over here.
this person's house, because
Yeah, you
that's,
got- he's got, yeah.
Humphreys, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, and I know that they have the mound behind them, so. Okay, so what's the next steps then?
So
Do we
ne-
need to recommend to the council? What,
You know, we could, so now that on the auditor's site, look at that big area back here, I bet you we could get back there.
huh,
And it would be out of sight from the street, and,
Where?
right behind it,
Yeah, so
Back
switch
here.
layers again.
this plot,
Yeah, back
right?
there, cause that's ours.
This,
Yep.
You don't want it too far out of sight on
No bad.
Cameras,
there.
Cameras.
we had
Oh,
cameras.
you're worried about people breaking in?
And cameras there then.
Yeah, cause we can tell you a story about an hour after the other ones were planted. That's for another topic.
Fair enough, alright.
I mean, I think we've already discussed that
Yeah.
we have a need for cameras
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
village,
In
so.
that area.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, there's kids and kids are kids,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna say that, but you know,
Kids are.
they don't, some of them just, that's all I can
Right.
say.
Like, they still need to be held accountable.
And,
So that's why the need for cameras is
and
there.
alarms and,
So many.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Alright.
But on the other part, yeah,
Okay.
so I would
So-
say next steps as far as that goes is leave it in our hands for a little bit.
Okay.
We will start seeing what we can do on size, location, in that particular location, getting Mike involved.
okay,
And then potentially bringing maybe 2 different sizes to you guys. You know, this is what X is gonna look like, this is what Y is gonna look like. And then just kind of getting some ideas from there, you know, what does the village want to spend, what do we think we need to spend? These are, you know, just maybe give you an option, options.
I would-
This is 2,500, this is 5,000.
I would like to know as well, as we're getting estimates about adding on to them in the future. You know,
That's a good
do we
idea.
have enough space to expand it? You know, if we build something smaller now to meet our needs, is this something easily that we could add on to in the
And
future?
NPCA has asked numerous times, and not to throw a ringer in all of this, but that's
Right.
something for me. They have asked numerous times about getting like a 10x10 add-on to it.
Sure.
Just to
Um,
put their
Right,
stuff,
just
they
to
have
put
a
their
lot of
stuff in.
stuff.
And it would be at their
There's
cost, it
only-
would be, you know,
Right.
all of that, but it's something that maybe we do. I don't know what the bid process would look like with that, because, I mean, honestly, you know, it would be an alternate type thing, is what I would assume how they would do that, but again, is it something gonna be something that, hinders us from getting a good bidder, by doing all of these extras in the 1%? So we'll look into all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, we definitely wanna help out in PCA in the event that we can, but we don't wanna hinder the village on getting some good bids by putting alternates in there that are just difficult.
Well, we shouldn't pay that freight. That's the thing. But I think that space is big enough to have an adjacent 10 by 10 slab that they are welcome to put their own shed on.
I mean,
But,
sorry.
yeah, but that's the problem, that if we are paying that freight, then the dynamic between MPCA and village government
Not in
is-
disagreement, I'm just making
is
sure everybody knows I've
different.
been asked.
And I don't know that that's where anybody wants to be, cause I know
Yeah.
several years ago, there was a big effort
Yes.
to disentangle.
And I think we have a great relationship right now, and it's one of those, we don't
Yeah.
wanna cross it
Don't stop it.
to have an issue. So I'm not in disagreement, I think we are there where we're all very helpful and work together.
Send them to Lowe's, buy a shed, put
Yeah.
it next to our building and we'll help you.
Oh, there's
out.
there's a whole baggage that comes with that. We can come over for a beer after the meeting. I'll gladly tell you
Alright.
everything.
And Brian don't mind the stuff in his garage.
Yeah, my garage is, no, this Brian.
This Brian.
I've got a ton of PCA stuff in my garage.
Okay. Well, are we done with that
Yes,
topic?
I
Should
think
we-
we're good on that, you go to your next.
Should we move on to the shelter?
Yeah.
Yes,
Cause I think that's the next big topic.
yeah, cause that's a
So
great
this-
topic,
yeah.
that
so
we
this
discuss
is-
kids.
Is this still a where question, or have we decided?
So, the only reason I wanted to bring it up is I have had people from planning and zoning recently ask me, we've done all of this, where is this going, why haven't we done anything? And honestly, we've had concerns on locations, we've had concerns on, and I've had residents say, well, you're the one that decided this, you're the one that did all of this, you're the one. So, it is not the case. We have had, and I'm not gonna put Brady on the spot, but Brady knows that we have talked about this. Actually, we were able to pull up, some emails from 2020 and 2021 where we've actually been discussing this and locations and getting estimates in early 2021. This has been a planning and zoning, we have taken field trips, I think you were at one of them. We have looked at other locations, we've done all of that, and it's not, I am not the full force of this, but I'm the one that gets the estimates, I'm the one that does all of that, so. At this point, we have brought it to council before, this is a new council, so, you know, somebody said, well, why don't you bring it to this new council, blah, 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 okay, so that's where we are. So the locations that we had originally talked about, and again, I know we're at 7:30, we have other things to talk about too. So one of the other locations was down where those, we've talked about the pool, and the reasons why we didn't want to move forward with the pool. We have talked about, obviously, at the basketball court, and why that suited the needs for
It's
many
too
people.
much for residents.
And then the next one that we had talked about was down in the little, you walk down where the deer was, I believe, is actually the better way to say it.
Past Black Sycamore, there's a big
Down.
beautiful
Oh,
tree there,
yeah.
and that was my big preference, and I fought hard for it until we actually walked through it.
And
And
it's a soft-
logistically, it's just,
I'm trying to
if it's rained
visualize
that
You know
that.
where like the round, like where you can walk around the path?
there's Black Sycamore
Yeah.
Pond, and the path kinda goes down and then heads off toward
And
West
there's
Brook.
where we
This way,
buried the
up.
deer. Okay, now that I can visualize that, that
And
makes
so
sense.
again, that would be a beautiful place for a shelter, but it just logistically,
It would be very difficult for somebody
there's
getting
a stream running through it and
Yeah.
it's just, it's unreasonable.
heavy rains, it floods extreme, and it would have been, and it's something that maybe later on down the road, if there's a way that we can build it up or something that we could do,
So-
it would be a
so
very
what's
gorgeous
that?
location for a small,
FranklinCountyAuditor.com.
a very small place or something like that, so,
Is it under real estate?
Real estate,
Yeah.
yeah, and then map search is property search on the left.
yes.
Property?
And so we-
And then map search is what's fairly useful.
We as planning and zoning issued, an official recommendation that the mayor and the then liaison were to take to council advocating namely for a shelter, that unanimously the members of planning and zoning wanted a covered shelter in the village, and that our recommendation was to put it across from the basketball court in that empty lot, and it, if you were at the block party,
Yeah.
that, we we just want that permanent. And so that was our recommendation, to have put it on a concrete slab. We looked at various different flooring materials, and the concrete slab was the easiest to maintain. Having open on 3 sides and closed on one, helps to break up the wind a little bit. And then in addition, for something like the block party, you could put a rentage on the far side of the wall so that folks who maybe live on Jordan wouldn't have to leave.
Can you imagine living at the Arns's residence and having the block party in front of their home 24/7?
But it's
I mean,
not
that's
going,
some-
well, hey, hold on.
No, first off, wait, let me finish, please, and then you can talk. I know personally, before any of this, I do think that this is one of those things where we asked, are we bringing residents in? I know personally of 12 different homes that want to speak on behalf of this. First off, my thoughts, I'm not opposed to the shelter. I'm opposed to throwing a whole bunch of stuff over there by the basketball court with the things that are happening. There is issues, whether we want to talk about them or not. That can be a whole safety meeting, this or that, but it is fact. You have multiple residents that do not want this. So now you've thrown the basketball court. Again, and there's some great things that happen at the basketball court. It does. It's great when we see the kids playing with each other and this and that. But on the other hand, it's also brought a whole other mess, right? So now we're putting a maintenance shed there. We need it. Again, I get that. But you're bringing a shelter in, and now not just the problems that we have having at the basketball court. Now you're going to provide a shelter and a bathroom for that guy to have to clean out.
No, you didn't say a bathroom, you said a rentage on.
Yeah.
So it's a porta potty that would be brought in
Okay.
for an event like the block party.
Okay, thank you for that correction. But I just think that you definitely I'm urging you to hold a meeting to speak with these residents. And I'm telling you of 12, just on Alder Vista and Maplewood.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
to address some of your concerns,
right,
right, when we say like the block party, we certainly aren't meaning closing down the Alder Vista connector, right? It would literally
I
just be
understand that.
buildings,
Wait.
right? So we're not talking about all of those people, right? Where it is unlikely because again, my house is within eyesight right
I'm very
there,
much aware of that.
hold on,
right?
let him talk.
I wouldn't expect it to
I
see
can-
more than a
just wait.
handful of
I'll
people
interrupt
come
you.
and go on the
I know,
regular,
but
but
I'm
it
an
would
adult
be
and I can
great
talk when I want.
for events, great for people who wanna bring a sack lunch to the basketball court and go eat in a shady spot,
To the
all of those
playground,
things are
and
great.
how close
People,
if it rains to wait it out.
people at the playground who wanna get out of the rain if it starts a pop-up storm, there's a
Take a lunch to the
ton
playground.
of benefits.
And all due
Ton
respect,
of
they can't
benefits.
pick up a water bottle.
That doesn't have anything to do about whether or not getting out of the rain is good for
No,
them.
you're saying that we're saying we gotta look at both sides. I'm not saying it's not gonna provide rain. The fact is, an umbrella works to provide rain, that don't mean nothing. I'm talking about the things that come along with the shelter.
Yeah,
So-
there'll be problems, no problem, absolutely.
So,
But
can
I don't think those problems are outweighed by
But
that.
that's you, that is
Can I-
you, and you do live by there. So again,
Yeah.
your insight is,
And then as
So-
far as
you don't
people,
oversee.
as far as people
3
having to
other
look at
areas.
it, right, it's right there where it says reserve.
I'm not worried
reserve
about what
H
it
is
looks
where-
like.
Hold on.
I'm
It's
not.
right there where we said reserve H, and your
You
first
put
comment
24
was,
karat
could you
gold on it.
imagine the Arns having to look at this all the time? So the only houses with direct views of it would be lot 230, right, and then 5099, right? And then I would have sort of a diagonal view on it, and 5081 would have a diagonal view on it, and that's right.
Another.
I see why you're saying that. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me rephrase what I was saying. I don't care, okay. First off, the Arns seeing it and the people directly connected right there, because they do, they have to. I have watched little children have to go in and not use their sidewalk chalk with their mother because there is so loud rap music with bitch this and bitch that, and the little kids have to be taken in. I'm being honest.
Well, that's, hold on.
No,
Yeah.
Hold on,
don't-
you're using a word that I don't think is accurate, and so I'm gonna say. they
Were
don't
you there,
have to-
Brian?
No,
I
I'm
was
saying
personally
they don't
there.
have to do anything, they have made a choice to retreat from
Because
things that
it's
they
not,
don't like.
okay, but it's not a proper environment for a 6-year-old, right?
It's a perfectly proper environment for a 6-year-old. I would not have taken my kids away from rap music
But
with
you can
offensive
make that
words.
parental choice on
Yeah.
your home.
Yeah,
right?
and they can make that choice on
But
theirs.
they're being
So,
forced to
hold
have
on,
that
hold on,
choice,
hold on,
right?
okay.
Okay,
So
I
Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right,
No.
let's try to do
Let's-
this in a
yeah.
different avenue.
Yeah, I think,
I think, let me say one thing.
Yeah.
I think we know, again, this didn't go well the last time and I don't want to do that again. So we know that there's concerns, that's why I brought it, because it's been brought to my attention that I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And I want it to be an open conversation, because there are
This is
residents
the first
that
time we've
do
heard
want
this.
to move forward with this. Multiple residents, and again, we can always use that word. We know there's multiple residents that don't want it, we know there's multiple residents that do. We have 2,000 residents, regardless, we're not voting for it. We know that the residents that are right by there are probably not gonna like it, we know the ones that are further away, and that's not fair, that's not a fair statement, because Brian lives right there.
Yeah.
I do know that we have another council member, because that is also on board with location.
Personally okay with the things that are going on there right now too, so
But-
your opinion, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
wait,
don't match the
okay,
other
we're
rest.
trying to do this in a different direction.
yeah, alright,
Let's
Being
do
honest.
this in a different
Yeah.
direction. We can always bring residents in, and this
Yes.
isn't a shade on anything. We know that there's residents that don't want it. We know the reasons that they're gonna come in. We went through this for over a year with the basketball court itself.
Yeah.
I guess my first question is size a concern, or, I mean, if we put this over at the pool, and those people don't, I'm gonna use those people don't want it that live over by there, what makes their rights any less than the people
I'm
over
not,
here?
no.
And that's my
And
question.
if I came across like that, no, I don't wanna ever come across like that, because
Okay.
that's not, I don't mean it
And
like
this
that.
is- I'm trying
What
to
I
be like
mean
the
is,
devil's
I,
advocate.
no, I
Okay.
completely, I highly respect it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I think that there is a lot of stuff that's going on that we've not further handled yet. So why are we adding, hey, let's put a big ear blimp in that
Okay.
big wavy arm guy, come here, come here.
Yeah.
Let's handle our stuff first.
So if we
So-
did the shelter with.
No, not or,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not.
Right,
Yeah.
first off, Brady's got a question, or
We, well, we had some of these conversations, and so in the thought that, you know.
But council hasn't,
Right,
right?
and so that's why I'm here today, is to help bring some of the knowledge and some of the thought and conversation that we had here, so that you guys don't have to do it all over again, right? And I'm not saying that the conversation should be over, I'm saying that here are some of the considerations and things we discussed. First off, there's that lot 230, the discussion was that we would wanna put some kind of screening, be it a fence or trees up, to help, to separate the property line, and also to provide some noise and possibly, site screening.
Yeah.
For those residents, so that is one thing that we did discuss and did share. It was my suggestion, and I'm not sure how well it was received, but to simply ask those residents, we'd like to put something up to help separate things. Would you like a tree line? Would you like a fence? This is, what we'd like to do. So that's just one thing that we discussed. There was also talk that we would run electric to have at least an outlet, needed. When electric is run, it was determined that would be a good candidate to put a pole-mounted camera on that could have a 360-degree potential view of the basketball courts and the playground to help with overall safety issues. And we did have the talk with all the members of planning and zoning at the time. And this, took place a while ago when things were happening at the basketball court. And there was a school of thought, and I was fully on board with that school of thought, that the two options, easiest options were there's a problem with the basketball court, let's get away from there and try and move the community someplace else. There's not a good way to say this, and let them have it, or to work to change the culture around the basketball court and to reclaim it. And the thought was that, yes, putting a shelter there could go either way,
yeah,
but putting it on the same
But
side of
it's
the
already on
street.
the bad side, so why are we taking another gamble? These are people's homes.
Right,
So-
so I'm gonna go to the,
First off,
Right.
you've stopped me twice. I
Right.
haven't stopped you once.
Brian, I'm
Secondly-
perfectly aware of how to speak, I'm a grown woman, I do
Secondly-
this a lot.
Hold on,
Please.
so I'm gonna jump back
Let me
in,
go
my
again.
or that you stopped me on, remember, was exactly what Brady was saying, that this can be a tool that can help us bring the technology into the space that it can be monitored, that
So
we
do
can
you,
put cameras.
okay, so
that we
perfect
can-
point is,
Wait.
I don't even feel comfortable, am I interrupting?
Go ahead.
I don't feel comfortable with one of our police officers rolling up on this court. I'm sorry, but I don't think one officer in his cop car should be getting out and facing 15 dudes that we know have armed guns. No, we don't pay our officers enough, and I'm sorry, if it's me or you, I'm going home to my family. We are not, again, we're so many little
So-
steps to this that I think that we need to really refocus, because if our officers ain't even safe to go down there and to approach some of these situations, again, do you see them? Am I making a point? Is there, are you
Not really,
gonna?
but
Well,
hold on.
I'm not
So
even worried
let's
about
take,
making
let's take
Yeah,
that
yeah.
out for a second, and we'll just ask, Mayor, has any of our police officers expressed a concern for their safety in responding to a call to the basketball court or going to the basketball court?
This isn't a fair statement, because that, some of them actually thrive on being in, going and finding, bad guys, taking bad guys off the street. So I will say, some of them do thrive on that, and it was probably that's not a fair question. I would say, I personally, and I'm gonna be on her side on this one, we had a situation years ago. One of my first, very early on during COVID, we had one officer on duty, and I requested that he wait until Blendon Township showed up. So I'm not gonna say that, but that was also, in fairness, that was COVID, there was like 50 of them there, 50 guys, of all different ethnicities.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people there, and it was, it was one of those that I did request that we wait until Blendon Township shows up. So, I will say the officers do drive by there, they do stop by there. Some of them have gotten out and talked with them. I don't wanna say that they fear to go over there, because most of them definitely have more, I probably fear more for them going over there than they do. So that's
So-
not,
Your-
I hate to speak for them, but-
Your risk tolerances and their risk tolerances.
correct, some of them,
Which is the nature of that kind of employment.
yes.
But
So-
are we personally not engaging with some of the reports and calls that are being made because it's not safe? Because there's been multiple calls that's happened where they don't show up or this and that, and you can't blame them. You can't blame them.
Well-
I'm sorry, I can't imagine one of our smaller officers showing up. I don't care if there's 4 little kids and 2 adults. It's open carry now. You know what I mean? I mean, it's true. It's a very real
Sure.
safety concern.
So,
That's what I'm
This is-
saying. I think there's different levels of what we need to do before
I
we.
think those concerns are something we can take to the chief and ask the chief's opinion on these.
Not before voting on the shelter, no.
I think if there's,
Well, that's part of the effort, right?
okay, I'm gonna wrangle this back in,
Yeah.
because I don't think we're gonna get very far tonight.
Well,
But this is, hold on,
Go ahead. Yes,
no,
you're
just
good.
let me talk.
You are good.
Alright, so, I think there's enough concerns for us to have a conversation with residents. It doesn't have to be a big thing,
all
just to
it has.
hear what potential issues are and if there's ways that we can address those issues that would make people feel comfortable.
That's it. That's all I ask.
So, I don't think, I don't think
Let's
it's
get it
a,
set up,
yeah,
for as soon as possible, because we do have residents that would like to see this in the spring.
yeah.
And I will say, at the block party, there were multiple people that were, when is this gonna happen? We wouldn't have had to have tents, this would have been
Yeah.
much easier if we had
I think-
somewhere to actually
Yeah,
have a
I
block.
Like
think from a
what you're saying.
logistics standpoint, that site makes perfect sense. You
And
know,
that's
it's
the
centrally
next one.
located, it can be used for the things like that, but there are some concerns that have been brought up. We may not have all heard them, but let's ask for them, listen, and see if there's some resolutions that we can come up with.
Right,
Make
Before
people feel
proceeding.
more comfortable.
Yep,
and I mean, the camera thing needs to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Regardless.
Yeah,
I think most of us are on board
1,000,000%.
with a camera, whether there's
Right.
a shelter house or not.
Right.
The other big question, and I don't wanna get into this tonight, is whether or not size makes a difference for some of the people. Do we want bigger is better? Do we want smaller? Do we wanna think, I mean, we were thinking 6 to 8, I was thinking, I don't wanna say you guys, but originally when we had started talking about 6 to 8 picnic tables.
That was the,
Yeah.
That was the original,
Yeah.
that
but
was the recommendation that we made.
what is
We talked about
that,
size.
20 by 40 or
exactly,
something
it
like
was like
that?
20 by 40.
Yeah.
Because we don't want
right,
the wedding reception.
Right.
Right.
We're fine with the kids'
Right.
birthday party.
Right,
Right.
so
And I
those were some of
see
the
a point on that.
conversations that we had as well, and I do know that the new cameras is probably superseding anything and everything, and honestly, I would like to see that conversation
Me-
sooner rather than later.
yeah.
But the electric
And-
is an issue, and it's not gonna be, it would be part of, it would make sense for it to be part of that project, because it is
Right.
not cheap to do. And if we're just dropping a line for a camera, you're adding thousands of dollars to this
Exactly.
Right.
camera. So it would be beneficial for the village to do it all in a one lump
I think there's some steps that we've talked about in the past that
Yes.
still haven't happened. For
Correct.
example, signage that specifically has the phone numbers on it for people to call around the courts and playgrounds. So that it's very easy.
Those are all little things I think we should
Yeah,
be doing.
little
Yeah, I
things,
agree.
signs are not expensive, that we could already get ordered and put up that say, hey, if there's any issues here, call dispatch at this number.
But also a sign, you know, in theory, in my perfect world,
Yeah.
a sign at the basketball court and at the shelter that says smile.
Yeah,
Smile,
you're on
you're on
camera.
camera.
Absolutely,
I
yes,
agree,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
1,000,000%.
Okay,
Yeah,
Does the rule sign not have the village phone number on it? I thought.
it may not.
Alright.
I
It may
don't
not.
think it
I
does.
don't think
But I
so.
think the other
Yeah.
part is we wanted to have the dispatch number,
Yeah,
Right.
on there and not just the village number anyways.
Right.
I do, I think that, but that's, again, that's something that if you guys remind me on Tuesday, whatever
Right.
today is, I mean, those are things that we can get,
Yeah,
smile,
it's
you're on
easy.
camera
Yeah.
tomorrow, and we can get some of those
Right.
other signs. Or somebody can design the sign of what they would like to see, I'll pass it around to everybody, that was FYI. that
Speaking
was
of, I don't think
do
we
you
have
remember
the,
what?
when I wanted to order signs and that turned into a thing.
I don't think we have the do not feed the geese signs yet.
Yeah, those
So,
would be nice.
There used to be some.
there's a
They're by the
duck,
pond.
That's
there's
right.
something
Community
about
building. I
ducks
did
at
see
the
them right
pond,
after.
Yeah,
but not
maybe
the
that.
geese, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so if you
yeah.
could, next steps on that is, next steps on that would be just figuring out, and maybe we refocus not doing your January, and maybe we focus on the coffee with council about that, and maybe doing it much quicker.
It's a great idea.
Maybe we try to do like the first week of November or something like that, way early, but giving us 2 or 3 weeks to get ready for it, and maybe we could get some additional background information like.
Because I don't
what-
only just wanna invite people, I don't want this to be a thing where I'm like, y'all wanna argue about the thing, come on down. Because
No,
I'd also
I-
like on the other side to hear the pros about it, correct?
Sure,
We
yeah.
are always in a constant state of being able to learn a few things. Again, there's things that I know I haven't thought of. Brian, believe it or not, there's things you haven't thought of, or you. So if we can hear pros and cons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree, yeah.
That way as
It's
a
turned
bike.
into a very good conversation, so I just
Thursdays
thank
in
you.
November are booked.
So we could
have to
try,
be other than the Thursday.
yeah,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
and the other part to that is we could try to do an hour before, if the meeting is not until 7, we could do it at 6 until 7, and that way there is an end time, a solid end time
Right.
to something like that. I mean, we could, or pick a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that everybody's available early November, we could do election day or something, I mean, why not? I'm just teasing.
Definitely not election.
You know.
I'm teasing, either one.
Um,
But anyways, I think that would be,
If you're gonna do, if you're looking at revising signage of any sort, I might suggest waiting until after the code rewrite.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, that's a
Just
good point.
because, some codes are going to change, but many things are going to be renumbered. And so, you know,
Oh,
pursuant
sure.
to
Yeah.
code such and such,
Sure.
don't feed the geese, and then
Yeah.
the code
Yeah,
changes,
yeah.
and you know, have to.
well, now we have to redo the
It does
signs,
seem a
yeah,
little bit
that
more
makes more
serious when you
sense,
put the
yeah.
code up.
and then we can revisit, I have some of that stuff, like just some of the initial estimates that we got
Yeah.
for the different sizes
Yep.
and all that kind of stuff, so we have some of those, obviously we're gonna have to start again. We would also use the bid process that Mike Flickinger, we're really excited to try that, at least the first 2 times, you know, we've got the 2 things that we really wanna try to see how that works.
Yeah.
So Mike is ready to go with size, he doesn't really think we have to do too much, so that would be nice if we could get a discussion going with the residents and seeing if we can get that put out to bid and it being a spring project or an early summer project.
Yep.
And we do have the funds for that particular project.
Cool,
I love it when you have the money for things.
We do, that's, well, because we've talked about it for 2 years.
Right.
So we would be, the goal for that would be that it would be from the Parkland Fund because it would be, and that has always been the discussion from day one, and we would still have Parkland money left.
And the nice thing is that, you know, in a situation where we're trying to figure out how to spend these funds in a long-term way, but with the knowledge that, yes, they can benefit the whole village, but there's really an intention on putting something to enhance the community of the MI section,
Yeah, no,
that, we thought that that would be a really thoughtful spend of the parkland funds, and knowing that there's no, that's not your tax dollars.
All of those dots connect.
Right.
It makes perfect sense.
Cool, okay. Let's talk about landscaping public gardens real quick.
Sure.
We are bringing the, I think it's already done, deal that we're gonna get the flower beds
We
redone.
are waiting to get on their schedule, yes.
Yeah, so we at least have maintenance being happening on the flower beds in the village and stuff like that. I think the question is next year, talked about trying to unify the entrances into it, just so that you're entering the village of Minerva Park just by passing one of our, what are those called, monuments,
It was
basically.
brought up in chatting for council a couple times.
Yeah, so, I think right now, we're having trouble getting bids on things, so it's kind of hard to estimate. My recommendation is just gonna be that we say, this is how much we have to spend next year, or bring that to finance. We see if we can get that approved, and if we get 2 of them done, if we get all of them done, we get them all done, and it's just a multi-year progress, or project. It's my thoughts.
It's something we'll chip away at until we
Yeah.
get it all
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
What's the number you had in mind?
I honestly don't even know, to be honest with you, I don't know what it
What are
would
we
cost.
paying? Do we know
We're
what
paying about
maintenance-
4,600 for these, so,
They're
What they're
doing,
doing is, it's just a spring,
everything
it's like a
except
cleanup and a.
yeah, they're not putting new landscape in, they're just weeding and,
weeding, trimming,
Yeah.
mulching, everything except
So-
the actual 28-29 site.
Here's what I would suggest,
yeah,
right, cause whatever numbers we come up with here, we'll go to the finance committee
Right.
meeting and it'll all be,
Yep.
it'll have to be arm wrestled and horse traded and
Sure.
all of that. I think that is a $10,000 kind of number for next year.
yeah, I agree.
Right, that's enough money that we can actually, cause the first thing I think we need to do is actually have a design.
Right,
And, I mean, I can design stuff, but I think it'd be better if we actually got a designer to
Right.
design something, and
Right.
then we could work to that as a
well,
plan.
and I think, if my understanding is correct, as of the first of the year, we'll have that bidding system where we could actually send it out to bid and actually find someone to do it, but, yeah, I think I agree, I think there's a plan, and I think it's about low maintenance and
Right.
perennials, things that are easy for us to take care of, and then from there, we just maintain.
Native perennials that
Yeah.
just will thrive on.
Exactly.
being ignored.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Lots of heat and no water.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, okay. And then
Cactus.
what about, what are your thoughts still on maybe a contest between the circles, the courts? Having them, and then I think the recommendation, or the thought was maybe a free MPCA membership, or, I mean, what does that cost the village?
$20.
$20 a house.
Yeah,
Right, so if we
so
got all
$100
5
bucks,
houses on a cul-de-sac.
right,
you know,
it's $100, yeah.
Yes,
There's apparently some trees that are dead out and about, is that something we can ask those people to do, or is that a
Pine tree.
groundmaster situation?
Pine trees at the MI Island.
in the MI Island.
Like where Green
Minerva
Line
Lake
dead ends?
Road, Green Line dead ends into.
Oh, yeah, the island in Minerva Lake Road. That's what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Oh, I don't know. Is that within the scope of work that they bid on? Right, that's what you're asking.
It's probably not,
Yeah, this is just landscape.
yeah,
So that would either be us to, honestly, we would just call, Brad and have Brad cut them out,
Okay.
knock them down, cut them out.
okay.
So if you wanna text them and tell them, and then just tell them to send us a bid.
Well, that was.
So do we need a budget for-
The look
Did
of
you-
that island should those trees come down.
Are they all dead?
The one is pretty much 98% dead, and then the other 2 are about 50%.
I mean, I think we just need to get them cut out, and then in the spring, we decide what we wanna do with them.
Well, it's got that big old boxwood bush in there too, I think it's called boxwood. Somebody's kept that trimmed up, but
So how much of so here's kind of a question for everyone. How much of this falls under community, and how much of this falls under maintenance?
Well, I think it's all of the above. of, because at the end of the day, we used to have somebody that came in and did, it depends on what you guys wanna do to change it. If we do it, it's gonna be done our way. If you guys want to say, we want this done, then you guys better do it, because other than that, we're just gonna say, clean it and do it, and it's done.
Right.
If you want it to have a different type of look, and you want, again, you guys set the budget. So as long as I'm within the budget, I can pretty much have maintenance do it, but again, it's too much for maintenance to do, so then we hire it out.
Right,
In the event it's more than what we have, or it's a large contract, you guys are gonna approve the contract. So really, it boils back down to what you guys want to get involved in, because ultimately, we do it. But if you wanna say, I don't want these plans, and I don't want this, and I don't want that,
right,
you guys are gonna have to direct us to do that, because at this point, we're not
Okay.
gonna do that. We're gonna, we're gonna do what I did. We're gonna get an estimate, and we're gonna mulch it and clean it and move on with life.
alright. So, speaking of
So
that,
if you don't like that, then you have to figure it out.
let me, I thought this was interesting that I noticed at Monday's meeting. So I don't know if we've all had the conversation, you and I have had the conversation about more work around some of our areas. This is that pond that we've now let overgrow all of this. But when MI was maintaining it, this entire hill was cut down. So that's something, I think,
For whatever reason, it was told to start, we had gone through and did a lot of walking tours throughout the village, and some people wanted it to look more natural, and they wanted it to grow in. Unfortunately, some of the trees then started growing in, and once they started growing in, within 6 months, it was done. We had Brad come out and cut the cattails out of the one pond. That was a pretty penny.
this one right here,
Yes,
right?
so he had gotten those done.
Right.
We have not had him do the trees yet, but that was the next step, is to have him cut those trees out. And yes, my concern is the longer we wait to get those done, the more they're just gonna keep filling in.
Right.
That's what happened I lived in the woods at the preserve in New Albany, and they actually completely covered it. It just looks like a small plant now.
I think there's certain areas that we've let go too much, and this is one that I've heard about around this particular pond. I also noticed,
That was a decision by planning and zoning
To leave it alone.
to leave that one alone in the
Gotcha.
thought that native plants would
yeah,
take it over, but we knew we'd need to maintain the water to keep the dogwoods or whatever out. What we didn't realize at the time was that all of those native plants were weeds.
yeah,
And so something needs to happen there, but there was a thought of trying to keep that natural looking just because
How gorgeous it is down lower. I mean,
Yeah.
when you continue to walk around the path, that is gorgeous when you
Yeah,
walk through
the
there.
Right,
path,
but also how
we've
much
put-
pain it would be to
yeah,
to
no,
mow.
I'm sure it's a pain.
So yeah, if there would be a way to beautify that, but leave it.
I'll
so
tell
it
you,
doesn't
one of the
be-
complaints came from someone that's on your committee, so,
Yeah.
one of the complaints came from someone that's on your committee, so, yes.
Yes.
Around
Yeah.
that pond is not where anything gets mowed other than where that bench
Right,
is.
right,
That's it.
I think that
Right, and that was our intention, because we wanted to see what would grow in, and unfortunately what grew in was.
yeah,
So those
part of
trees
the
took
problem
off,
is we let nature do what nature does.
yeah,
And it didn't aim for pretty.
right,
But I think there are ways that you can cut it all back and then prepare it for prairie reclamation kind of growth.
right,
That is both native and self-sustaining and pretty.
Yes,
Which is
it's-
what we did
it's
over
a
on the
reset.
Lily.
Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we did in the
And
Lily Pond, and I think
so
that was a
we
huge
should,
success.
we should look to do that in that space.
Yeah.
We can't just let nature do what it
Right.
does.
We have spoke to Brad about getting us an estimate to get the dogwoods out of there to
Okay.
start with. And I believe he gave us that, and I don't know where we are with that. So, because honestly, we've given him like 7 things to do since then. Yeah, it's been nonstop, I think. Do we know if he came out last Friday and did that one?
He did the tree today.
Today, okay. So that would have been, so that's something that we can figure out when he can get out there to take the dogwoods out, but that was after the cattails, the next thing to do over there.
okay,
And then again, it goes back to the same thing, you have planning and zoning's recommendations are to do this, and then you start doing this, and this isn't a bash, but then you have other residents that don't like the way that we're doing that, and then you have, you know, so then council says, well, let's look at it this way, and at the end of the day, our maintenance people can only do what I tell them to do, and I
Right.
get my recommendations from what you guys tell us to do, so
Right.
it's not,
No,
it's not a bad thing, it's just a matter of figuring out, getting everybody on.
Yeah,
Some people would rather it fill in, and some people would rather, you know, certain things be cut and trim and all of that, I mean, we've had, you know, some people that, I don't wanna talk about the shelter, but not necessarily the shelter, but, you know, somebody keeps asking, what are you doing with the green space, what are you doing with the green space? Well, a
Right.
lot of people don't want us to touch the green space, they want it green space, they don't want sledding hills, they don't want
Right.
exercise equipment, they don't want all of these things, they want it left alone. And other residents want the exercise equipment, other, you know, they want, they want walking paths anywhere and everywhere, they want, so it's a matter of deciding which way you wanna go. I mean, there is a way to get a balance, but some still wanna push it that way and some wanna push it that way, and it's just it's a balancing act between what one person thinks is gorgeous and what, another. And yeah, when you start bringing in bugs and mosquitoes and all that, that can be a problem. To switch gears,
Yeah.
that then would lead to, again, that is part of your guys' committee when we start talking about, the maintenance of the lakes
Mhm.
and what we wanna see done as far as aerators and as far as fountains. And again, the reason that I was thankful that you guys had this meeting tonight and not after is tomorrow we are gonna be talking about 2023 and 2024 budget.
Right.
Or basically budget, but bring with you your large projects.
Right.
That is something he wants to talk about tomorrow. So getting a line item in there for fountains and aerators and those types of things, and I think he is more talking about capital projects, but to me, that's not gonna be a cheap thing, it needs to be in there. So
Right.
tomorrow would be a great time to say, look, we
Yep.
really, if we can spend 10 minutes on it,
yeah,
which ones you would like to see aerators in, do we leave them alone yet another year? But that's kind of where I wanted to leave when you got done with this topic,
Yeah.
is to that.
Well, I
The difficulty is that for the conversation tomorrow, numbers is what we
right,
really want and need.
We do have those from,
Oh, okay.
we do.
right,
Then-
from Aqueduct, right,
Then
yeah.
just throw them in the.
But do you guys want to do it, I think is really all I kind of wanted to know, like, do you want to do something in each lake or one lake or, so that was kind of, I don't know your
I mean,
thoughts.
again, I think we can do a multi-year project on
Correct.
things like that, we don't have to spend it all at once.
I think the approach that seems reasonable to me is to bring it all. And then in our process of talking through a budget,
Yeah,
Right,
where do we compromise? Do we
Yeah.
compromise in splitting this out into 2 or 3 years? Great, then we take that big number,
cut it,
chop it 2 or 3 times,
right,
and then that's.
what we have
you
each year.
Right, but, maybe in our discussion tomorrow, it's absolutely, that is priority, we'll do it all this year.
that would be nice.
Right, if the money's there, if we have the expectation of the money will be
Right.
there.
We have streets projects coming in March.
Mm.
Just kidding. Oh, just kidding.
Okay. Alright, does anyone wanna talk about the pool? I don't know that I have much new.
It's 8 o'clock, I mean, it's
Yeah, I know.
early
We've
hours.
already
Yeah.
had a bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
And they've already been socialized. and-
Yep, I don't think I have anything new to bring up at this point around the pool,
Yeah,
so,
they were all reasonable and made sense to me.
yeah, okay. Anything else, any new business? I feel like it
Chairs
was
are being
all new.
delivered tomorrow.
Yes.
Tanner and Brian will be trying to figure out what, how, whatever.
Yes.
They're supposed to call 30 minutes before, cause I'll probably have to wake them up.
Yep,
So it's just a call to let me know.
you're gonna take some pictures so we can,
Did you see the
Post it.
pictures of the containers that he had on his computer?
Yeah.
Huh?
Huh?
Look at the containers, how full I have them already.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's just one mower in there and the other one's not in there yet.
Oh.
Now, the reason it's like that is because
Tanner
I
helped
was,
you?
well, I was pressed for time to get that stuff
Well,
out of the shed
total
and
mower
out of the
thing.
building.
Right.
Now it's gonna be a matter of working from this container and moving them over to the next one. We actually moved the cabinets from the
Right.
EMS van.
Yes, I know, I heard, and
God,
he
that's-
said,
That really
I'm-
helps.
yeah, except he told me that you weren't supposed to be lifting them, so we'll move on.
I didn't lift, I pushed.
mm-mm.
No
It
lift.
counts,
I told on.
that still counts.
Cool.
I
Any,
told on.
any other new business? Old business?
Pool, what was I gonna tell you about the pool?
Uh,
Pit's being done in November.
Okay,
I got that update and everything else has been shut off and turned off. So I just got that email last night.
Okay, did we turn the phone off? I know we had talked about that.
Yes, the phone has been shut off, the internet has not, because we do have cameras. And fortunately, we do have cameras over there right now because we have had some unexpected guests multiple times, including at 2:30 in the morning just the other night.
Fine.
Early this morning it was.
Yeah, this morning. So, we have them on camera, you know, I don't know what they were doing, they were over by there, so I'm hoping that we watch those a little closer over the next day or two, cause my guess is somebody may be coming back. You
Yeah.
never know, that's usually what they do, is scope it out first.
Right,
So I don't know, there's nothing in there, I mean, other than the mowers, I don't know why they are, I don't know why we've had so much curiosity with these, like, in the last, I mean, we've had at least 2 people
So far, yes.
so far caught on camera messing with them.
right, interesting.
You know, cop cars parked there would be a reasonable deterrent.
I know, and they, one of the officers was just, you know, they don't go, I'm saying this on record, they don't go to the 3700 because again, it's difficult for them to go and be in the village and do all that unless they absolutely have to.
Right,
So for the most part, they're driving or they're in the pool part, you know, the main places that they go to do their paperwork. They're in their cars even more now. So anybody who says that they don't see them, they're in the village more now than they were before.
yeah,
So in my opinion, driving around in the parking lots, and yes, they were in the pool parking lot the other day.
nice. Okay, so nothing else?
I don't have, just be ready for tomorrow, bring any of your large expenses over the next, you know, year, 2 years, 3 years. So I know you have some things, so, I mean, he's expecting me to bring them, so,
I can spend money.
It's gonna be a really good conversation
Yeah.
to, the 2 main things that you will be talking about is salary and pay ranges, and then the other large one is the capital projects.
Yep.
And how to move forward with that.
Cool.
So that's kind of his starter topics tomorrow.
All right, well, I'll
Nice.
move to adjourn then. All right, thank you guys.